Hey, it's your friend Cristiano, and welcome to the Queer Quest podcast. Hello, all you fabulous souls. This week, we are breaking the silence on queer mental health, and we're focusing on healing the way that we deserve in our community. So it's all about mental health, all about healing. And if you're someone who's struggled in this area, I think today is the perfect topic for you. And so if you're going to get some value out of today, what I would really love for you to be able to do is support us. Like, comment, subscribe, review, wherever you're doing, wherever you're listening, do something here so we can boost up so someone else in the queer community can hear this episode and get the value out of it that you did as well. So why are so many queer people silently suffering behind our smiles? You know what I'm talking about. We all do it. We all pretend to be doing well. We all have this perfectionism complex, and it's built in because of the way that we've had to internalize our experience and ultimately our emotions, because we've grown up in a world that wasn't built for us and in a world that hasn't necessarily accepted us for who we are. And because we have struggled with what we call psychological safety, we've all been taught to wear a mask, pretend to be happy instead of actually going on that journey of truly becoming happy. So in this episode, we dive deep into the unspoken mental health crisis. That's right, it is a crisis that is in the LGBTQIA plus community. We explore the roots of trauma, the masks that we wear, and how we begin to unlearn survival mode. That's right, unlearn survival modes that we, as individuals, as a community, can thrive emotionally, mentally, and also spiritually as well. And then, of course, how that affects the other areas of your life. We're talking about physically, in your career, in your finances, in your relationships, in your activities, your joy, your activism. This isn't just about therapy or coaching. It's actually about liberation. And I thought something was wrong with me for so many years of my life. And it turns out that I was just reacting to a world that made me feel like I didn't belong. That's right. I was reacting to a world that made me feel like I didn't belong. So let's jump in and talk about first the silent epidemic. So what are some of the stats that we have? So we're looking at everything from anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, suicide, all of the mental health categories. For people in the LGBTQIA plus community, we are 2 to 3 times higher in every single category than the general population. So we're talking about over 50% of queer people suffer from bullying. Over 60% struggle with anxiety. A lot of it is social anxiety. 50% deal with depression. We've got 70% dealing with loneliness. We have 1 in 3 struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder. And then 1 in 10 will seriously think about or contemplate suicide at some point in their life. And that's just looking at it as a whole. When you break down some of the, subcategories of the LGBTQIA community, some of them are vastly higher in certain areas. So is it an epidemic? Yes. Is it silent and not talked about enough? Yes, as well. And what is the cost of silence? It's the emotional labor of holding it all together. And I know this all too well. I struggled with mental health for many, many years of my life, especially like all the way up until I would say, I was in my 30s. I really struggled with it. Earlier in life, I had 0 friends. I got bullied severely in school to the point where it happened every single day, to the point I had 0 friends, to the point where I would hide away as much as possible during lunchtime and recess breaks because I didn't want to get tagged. I never went to the public toilets. I would always go to the ones in the office because I was afraid of going to the other ones, and the other ones in the office were, of course, around where the admin and the school staff were. So I can definitely relate to that. And because of that, it made me fearful of people in the world because people were cruel, and I experienced that cruelty head on. And it happened every single day. And I'm grateful in a sense that I grew up in an age where social media was not yet a thing, because I could imagine that it would have turned from not just being at school, would have happened to online cyberbullying as well. And so for those people, who are growing up in this day and age now, I really feel for those younger queer people who have to deal with not only the bullying face to face in schools or in other, social settings, you have to deal with it as a barrage, from kids online, on the social media platforms. So it's really only gotten worse and more, exasperated. And it's something that we as a community need to talk about more, because it's crazy that we in 2025 are still dealing with, mental health rates that are 2 to 3 times higher in every single category than the rest of the general population. And so for me, I dealt with it there. I dealt with it in the workplace. I dealt with it in different jobs that I was in, all the way up to 30, where I was bullied, where I was dealing with the mental health stuff. Yes, I came out at around 21 years of age, and that definitely helped me to be able to make friends and put myself out there and get a weight off my chest. But when you still are avoiding dealing with some of that trauma that you went through in your life, it's still there. And so it comes out in inopportune times. So
Hey, love, while I've got you, I want to gift you with something powerful. Something I wish I had when I was cracked open and crawling through the mess of heartbreak, shame, and that deep ache of, why am I like this? If you've ever felt like healing is this confusing, invisible maze where you're just surviving one emotional breakdown after another. If you've been wondering, is something wrong with me? I want you to know, you're not lost. You're not broken. You're becoming. Most queer people were never given a roadmap for healing. We were taught to hide, to perform, and to shrink. We've been gaslit by religion, erased by culture, and taught to just get over it. But healing isn't a straight line, especially when you're queer. It's not just about feeling better. It's about coming home to your queer, radiant, whole self. That's why I created the Journey to Queer Healing, a free guide that maps out the 18 emotional stages of queer healing. It's not just theory, it's your soul's survival map. You'll see where you are, what's next, and what's possible on the other side of the pain. This guide has helped hundreds of queer people realize it's not just me. I'm not behind. I finally understand what I'm going through. Download the guide today. Let it remind you, your healing isn't random. It's divine. Download it now via the link in the show notes. Or you can comment guide on this video or on any of my socials, and I'll send it directly to you. And when you're ready to go deeper, join us for the Queer Comeback webinar. Let's make your healing sacred and make your comeback legendary. I'll see you on the journey.
times. So for me, I would use a lot of alcohol and, drugs as ways to cope with my mental health. I would go out. I would be out 5-6 times a week. Rarely would like to be on my own, because in those moments of loneliness was where the mental health spiked the most. So being able to be around people and put on a smile, and also, use things to enhance and avoid and numb myself, that was definitely my life for well over 10 years, well over a decade of my life. I was into that party mode, the go, go, go mode, the let's not, signal our thoughts too much. Let's push these things away. And that repressed emotions that, I had yet to deal with from when I was a young child. Now, I remember being in, quite predominantly, I grew up in the, I was born in Canada, then we moved at a very young age to the UK. And then when I was about 9 years old, I moved to Australia. And I remember in the UK, life was good. I had some friends. I felt, quite comfortable. But when I came to Australia, massive culture shock, different kinds of people. I was, of course, still effeminate. And that's when the bullying really started. So I can really kind of put a kind of note on it that around that age was when it really came to the point where I started hating life. But of course, I had to go through all of school, and that was year 4, excuse me, all the way over to year 12. And after school, I kind of just did not want to go into studying because I didn't want to put myself in those environments. My parents would force me into doing study, and I just pretended that I would go to the classes and I would just go off and, sit in my car somewhere to try to get away from that and say that I did the course. Yes, that's probably not the right thing to do. But as a young queer person who was still in the closet at that point, I couldn't explain to my parents in a way that I felt that they would understand as to why I didn't want to do it, why I had struggled with it so much, and why going back into those environments felt really unsafe for me. I think you can all understand what I'm talking about when we talk about being unsafe. So, is it a silent epidemic? Yes. Do I know that you understand what I am talking about? Yes, as well, because I bet every single one of you out there has some sort of a story when it comes to the journey of your own mental health, whether it is anxiety, depression, suicide, post traumatic stress disorder, loneliness, dealing with other really heightened emotional responses, emotional repression. As queer people, we were taught to repress our emotions through the journey of internalized experience. Having that internalized experience that we go through as queer people has taught us to repress our feelings. And it took me however many years after I came out, well over a decade, to finally start to those emotions that I was repressing. Because they don't go anywhere. They don't go away just because you ignore them or you numb them. They're still stuck in your body. They're still stuck in your nervous system. And usually what happens is you have something that triggers you. And then maybe it's something small, but you blow it out of control because your body can't handle more of it. And it keeps doing it to the point where the bucket's full and it overflows. And then maybe a little bit comes out and you have a burst of, an emotional outbreak when you're under the influence or when you just can't take it anymore and then let it go. But then your body continues to repress, and it keeps going around in that kind of a loop. That's what it definitely did for me. So it's a silent epidemic, and I think we all need to make sure that we are talking about this more and more often. Now, number 2 is that queer trauma, it's not a buzzword, it's actually real. There is these things as minority stress, internalized homophobia, queerphobia, transphobia, religious trauma, rejection from family, the layers of survival mode. They run so deep and we live in them without even realizing because it's been the norm for us, right? Again, we've all covered it. We might have a vastly different background. Like I said, so many people in our community grew up in religious households, and dealing with that religious trauma has taken its toll on you in so many different ways. And it has created a lot of, trauma and a lot of negative thought patterns around yourself. The minority stress, like I said, not helping people that you can identify with. Depending on where you live, you might live in a small town, or you just don't know any other people out there who are queer or LGBT or gay or lesbian or transgender or non-binary or whatever the category you fit into, and you feel very isolated. You feel very alone. I know, again, with the world of online and the internet, that it's easier for you to connect with other people. It still doesn't mean that you don't deal with the minority stress that is that comes from not being the majority, not having the world created in a way for you to win. Because that's really what it is for people in the queer community who still struggle because the world goes through ups and downs. Like I said, we don't go up and we start getting more rights and we start to get things and then it only gets better. It has to sometimes get worse before it gets better. And I think we're in a period of time in the epiroll of the universe and everything where it's just getting worse before it starts to get better again. And we have to stand strong. We have to find people in our community that we can look up to, that we can get motivation from, inspiration from, that really you can see other people who are living lives that are maybe what you strive for. As we all know, we haven't had a lot of positive representation in the media, in film, in music of queer artists who are thriving and feeling it and talking about topics that are relatable to us. It's only more recently where we're starting to get more representation, but still a lot of it is still stereotypical, and it's important and relevant for us to start trying to figure out how can I seek out more queer media, more queer stories, and start listening to podcasts from queer people Start trying to figure out YouTube and look at queer creators. You like queer creators on Instagram and on, TikTok and all those things. And not just the ones that are just like the OnlyFans ones. Yes, I'm not a hater on those people at all. And great. I love that there is a rail where people can, express themselves, their sexual preferences. But I feel like where we're at with that world is that there are so many people who are just queer baiting us. There's so many straight people who are pretending to be gay or doing gay shoots just to get money. And yes, of course, you can choose how you spend your money. If you want to give money to these kinds of people, going for it. I'm not here to judge that. I'm just saying when I look at it, I go, is this actually a healthy representation of our community and us moving forward? That's all I'm looking at. God, some of these people are goddamn hot. And yes, I've seen some of these videos. Yes, I have definitely seen some of these videos and they are very entertaining. So again, no judgment here. What I'm trying to say is like, think about where you're spending your money, where you're spending your time and your energy and what you're watching and what you're consuming. Because again, if you're looking to try to find real representation, then find real representation. Like I said, listen to queer media. Try to source it out in ways that are possible for you. There are definitely more and more things coming available, and I know there are streaming platforms that are literally being created for people in the LGBTQIA plus community. So you can find it if you choose to do that. Of course, we all still know that internalized homophobia, queerphobia, transphobia, it's still a big thing. We've grown up in a world where we were taught to hate ourselves. And just because you come out doesn't mean that that changes automatically overnight to the point where you 100% love yourself. There's still a lot of times where you navigate the world on you, whether it's your career, whether it's dating, whether it's making new friends, going into new situations, traveling, so many different things where you will find that you might find yourself a little bit where people are homophobic towards you. And of course, you can then internalize that to start really struggling and go, why me? Why do I have to do this way? Yes, I've accepted it, but I still struggle with the fact that I'm still living a life that's a lot harder for me, right? That was one of the things that my dad said to me when I first came out to him. He said, I love you and I support you, but life's going to be much harder for you. And I internalized that for many years. And so again, I was struggling with internalized homophobia because I started to believe the words that other people had. Oh my God, I found myriads of ways where that was true. I've had to get to a point where I had to realize that no, like I can create my own narrative. I can create my own story. And in doing so, I have to create something that's a positive representation for me so that the internalized version of who I see loves every part of himself, including the part that is gay and queer and gender fluid as well. Because those are the parts of the LGBTQIA plus community that I am a part of. I am a gay man, I am a queer person, and I am gender fluid, meaning that I dance between, my masculine and my feminine. I embrace all sides of me. And what comes out, in the moment of who I am can be sometimes be very masculine and sometimes be very feminine. So I really believe in fluidity when it comes to my gender and how I represent myself in, whether that's fashion or in how I view myself, how I put content out online. Wherever it is, I see myself that way as well. And again, when we deal with the things that so many of us have had to struggle with when it comes to rejection from family, that just adds another layer to it. So it's very, very difficult to go through life as a queer person and never have to deal with some sort of trauma because it's left, right, up, down, in and out for you. And you'll experience it from a young age and you'll experience it all the way up until you're, an older age person as you until you come to terms with acceptance, fully self-acceptance of who you are as a human being, first of all, and then look at all the other nuances that play into your identity and play into who you are as a person. And again, we're trying to move away from the survival mode into thrival mode. And we have to try to figure out how we could do that living in a world where we've had to deal with all of this other queer trauma as well. Now, there's some real deep problems that are out there when it comes to mainstream mental health systems. There is a lack of queer-affirming care. Now, you can't just go to your GP and talk to them about your sexuality or your gender or gender affirming care or things to do with it, because not everyone is accepting of it, first of all, and not everyone will have any understanding of it. Not every city is going to have that. Not every city will have support for queer people in it as well, which is a real struggle. And of course, a lot of these, now that we're in 2025, we have to try to seek that queer affirming care via online methods. I know that there are so many different queer coaches and therapists and, healthcare providers online that do give out and provide amazing resources and information around whatever area that you're in. So it's about seeking out the voices that you want to hear, because you can get the help that you need. But in today's society with like you said, the mainstream mental health systems, there's a lot of gaslighting and a lot of misdiagnosis, and there's a lot of non-inclusive therapy. So it's being created and curated for people who are XYZ, the majority. So as a minority, you struggle with it because, again, the doctors or your families or people around you might gaslight you into telling you that you don't have an issue and saying it's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. Stop stressing about it. That's nothing. Da 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 da. And you'll be really internally going, actually, no, there's something here. But because I'm being gaslit, I have to struggle with this internally. I'm learning that I'm not in a safe environment, that I am struggling with this. Or again, you'll get misdiagnosed and put into a category of being bipolar or dealing with another mental health disorder that they try to categorize you. And then they'll try to give you some prescription medication or another shitty therapy type so that you can, pray the gay away or go to conversion therapy and all this crap, right? Whereas at the end of the day, it's about acceptance, about figuring out who you are and owning it, and then finding the right support that's going to support you fully for the emotional authentic version of yourself. Not for the version that someone else wants of you, but the version that is right for you. And hey, babe, quick moment before we dive back in. I have a question for your soul. Have you ever felt like you lost yourself somewhere along the way? Maybe it was the breakup that shattered you, or the years spent hiding, bending, blending just to feel safe. Or maybe it's the quiet ache that whispers there has to be more to this life than just surviving. Well, I want to invite you to something that's not just a webinar. It's a comeback, a queer one, a sacred, fabulous, F the rules kind of comeback. It's called the Queer Comeback Webinar. And inside, I'm sharing the 3 secrets every queer soul needs to know to come home to themselves, unapologetically, spiritually, powerfully. This isn't about fixing you, because you're not broken. This is about remembering who the F you are. If you're tired of dimming your light, people pleasing, or playing small just because of society's judgment, come. This is your moment. Not someday, not when, you're more ready. Now. Tap the link in the show notes or just comment comeback and I'll send you the link. Reserve your free spot now. And if you're multitasking right now, pause this video for just 1 second and do this for you. Your comeback isn't deserved, it's overdue. I'll see you there, my love. For you. And so building up all this resilience, which is what so many of us in the queer community really are strong and thriving at. Like we're very resilient people, is what I'm trying to say. But that being resilient isn't a healing experience. It just means that you've had to build up the resilience because you've been put in these situations. So being classed as resilient sounds like a great thing, and it can be, of course. But if you didn't to just claw your way from the bottom to get some sort of acceptance or some sort of, whatever you're looking for, you wouldn't have to build all that resilience, right? So resilience is only had to come in the face of adversity. And so that is what we're struggling with when it comes to the mainstream mental health systems. Of course, are getting better, but again, it's about seeking out the right kind of care. Like I said, I support so many people in my clients, they're in my world with their mental health because, again, I've been through those issues myself. I've helped so many with that again, people look to me for that kind of information, that inspiration, the motivation, whatever it is, right? whether it's through my online content, whether it's through one-on-one, whether it's through some of my online programs through Queer-Quest Pro. All of that stuff is a resource for people in the queer community struggling with mental health as well. So let's talk about the healing revolution that we kind of need to go through as queer people. There are so many really great um, healing therapeutic offerings that are very good for queer people. Now, for me, what have I done in the past? I've done things like plant medicine. I've done things such as nervous system regulation. I've done NLP. I've done timeline therapy. I've done somatic therapies. I've done breath work. I've done creative expression. Well, a lot of I've written 2 books, and I write almost every single day for my content, right? So through that creative expression, I'm able to get out my thoughts, my feelings. The repressed stuff comes out because I don't allow it to stay there. And when you talk and share about your own feelings and your experiences, that's a therapeutic experience. So journaling is a great thing as well. There's, community healing, being in safe spaces with queer people and hearing other people's stories allows you to also feel along. Sharing your story with other, queer people will also help you that because you feel like a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a community builds because of that as well. And of course, we know that the role of chosen family and queer community is so healing. It's something that we don't necessarily always fully understand. And I know that there are so many people in the queer community who struggle with finding the right community or finding a chosen family. And they say that all queer people are, are hurt people and they cause more pain. And that can be true. There are definitely a lot of hurt people out there wandering around who are, again, unconsciously doing some of these things to other people that have been done to them. Unfortunately, people learn negative patterns of behavior, and it's up to us to try to change the narrative and do our work and find more people who are more affirming to us in the community. Because again, not every single queer person is on the journey of healing. Some of them are on the journey of destruction for themselves, and none of us are going to be able to save that person until they're ready to save themselves. I know that for my own self through dealing with years of alcohol abuse, substance abuse, like really awful ways of treating myself, like self-harming situations. And that caused a lot of post-traumatic stress for me. And so for me, dealing with this, I pushed people away, and I was self-destructive. And it was only when I got to the absolute rock bottom when I started seeking support, looking for other people in the community that could shine a light for me, that could show me a path forward. And, I built a community of people in this queer community that I love and cherish, that I hold on to and I honor. And it is, something that I love to continue to do. Like I said, I've got my family of people in the Queer-Quest Pro family where we meet every month and do workshops together that I run and lead in all different areas of our life, whether it's on, mental health or emotional health or physical health or spiritual health or career or finances or your identity, wherever it's been. We run workshops every month, right? And because of that, we have a community. And I get so much value just out of being there and hearing their stories and sharing from them that it's a privilege to be able to run those workshops as well. And so it's not that healing is a destination. It's not a destination. It's a reclamation. And I think it's something that we all need to go through for ourselves and figure out. And again, not everyone's going to be able to get there, when we want them to be. And that's why I keep sharing, I keep talking about mental health. I mean, it's usually every couple of months I do a podcast on mental health because I believe it's important to keep talking about mental health because again, those numbers are still not good. And I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Are you out there, someone who's part of the solution? If so, type solution below, wherever you're hearing this in the comments, because I want to know how many people out there are part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. Can you do that? Just type solution in the comments below. It that'll be something that I can take note of as well. Of course, I've shared my own struggles. When I got to my absolute rock bottom moment, I was a high functioning, you know, person who was living in the corporate world, dealing with a team of over 300 people. Stress was coming at me left and right. The business was growing at an exponential rate. But I was hollow inside. I was unsafe. I was struggling emotionally and using alcohol and drugs as ways to numb and cope with that. But I had to learn what true safety in my body actually felt like. And that was been a journey. And that's been a journey that I've been on for the past 5 years. And I'm continuing to learn what safety actually feels like and looks like for me so that I can rest well. I can support myself. I know when I need to give myself that safety when I am struggling and what it looks like to be struggling and what it looks like to be safe. Because when you're struggling all the time, you don't know what it looks like because you're always in it. And you don't know what it looks like to thrive or what it looks like to feel safe in your body. So it takes some work. It takes knowing other people out there who have been there before, who can maybe show you that as well. So before I leave, I want to, of course, give you some stuff that I've been sharing with you that I think is going to be really good. And this is going to be about, some, what I would call some tools and some takeaways. First of all, journaling prompts. There are so many great questions to ask ourselves, especially if we are struggling to that we keep finding that we're getting the same answer. We go around in circles. What's wrong with me? Or all the things. We're asking the wrong questions. We need to start asking some key questions that are going to be supportive of who we are. Now, it might be, what do I need to know right now that's going to help me move forward? How long have I been struggling for? What does struggling look like for me? What does thriving look like for me? How do I move one step closer to thriving and away from surviving? What would psychological safety look like for me as a queer person? There's a list of beautiful journal prompts. I think you could take some of those and ponder on and ask yourself those, because self-reflection opens so many doors and so many doors of awareness for you about yourself that you don't even know. So journaling will help you to uncover a lot of stuff that maybe you have been bottling up, you know? And I think it's important for us to all do self-reflection on a consistent basis. Now, you could, of course, do things that like other modalities like breath work or, grounding techniques. I do about at least 3 times a day where I do a breathing exercise. I breathe in for 5 seconds, I hold it for 5 seconds, and then I breathe out for 5 seconds. And then I do that again. I do that at least 5 times, often 10 times. And it really just calms the nervous system when I'm really in a tizzy, right? In an emotional moment, because we all go through them. Right? Like, just because I'm a coach doesn't mean that I'm void of having negative experiences or that I'm perfect, right? I still deal with the day-to-day stuff. I still deal with relationship problems. I still deal with mental health concerns. I still deal with emotional, strong emotions. I just know how to regulate myself. I know what to do. I know how to have the right conversations and communicate. So when I have a problem, I can actually move to the solution a hell of a lot quicker. Now, of course, finding a queer coach or therapist is also key. Having someone who you can talk to that actually knows what you've gone through, the journey, whether it's exactly the same or very similar, or they can just relate to you, that's important, because they're going to be able to help again with helping you uncover what is the real root cause of the problem, and also how to solve it, because they've been doing this consistently. That's what I do, like I said, with my one-on-one clients. I help people in a way that is really affirming to them. And again, building support system in the queer community, that's going to be something that I believe is really helpful and really going to help you to move forward. So again, I'm going to link some resources below. One to look at Queer Press Pro, one to my free webinar, which is called the Queer Comeback. It's about 90 minutes, and it's about you, where you're at right now, how you can come back from mental health and start thriving. So moving from survival to thriving as well. That's the key of what the free webinar is. Again, link it below, and you can find out all the information. And then I've got a free resource as well, which is the Journey to Queer Healing. It's about 18 different stages that queer people go through on their journey of healing, from real struggle to full acceptance. So you can look at it and maybe see where you're at on the journey. Might be better or worse than you think you are. Don't judge yourself for it. just know where you're at so that you can move to the next level as well. So I'll link those resources below. Again, if you want to chat to me about anything privately, you know how to get in contact with me. Social media, I love chatting with all you guys, whether it's just a story, whether it's inquiries, whatever it is, like, don't be afraid to chat to me. And of course, if this episode spoke to you, you're not alone. I want you to share it with someone who needs to hear this, someone in the queer community who needs to hear this as well. And of course, like, comment, subscribe, review, whatever you can do to boost it up so other people can see it as well. And if you're ready to take your healing deeper, just like I said, download my free resources or check out Queer-Quest Pro because, it's the space that we wish we had growing up. It's a great community of queer people who are on the journey of growth and healing and transformation and really thriving. And so again, that's something that you can look at. It's in the resources below. All right. Again, if you want to give me some information about what you would like to hear from me moving forward on the podcast, what topics you want to talk about, again, I love talking about mental health. I love talking about thriving. I love talking about all things related to the queer community. Healing is a big part of my life. So I obviously talk about it a lot. So if you're on that journey, follow along and, share with me what your thoughts are for future episodes because I love being steered in the direction that you all want to have going. But I'm going to be back next week again with another episode. We'll see what it is. But until then, all I want you to remember, you've got this and I've got you. Bye for now.
Hey love, before you go, I need to tell you something important. You weren't meant to do this healing journey alone. You weren't meant to figure out your queer identity, your purpose, your healing, your worth in silence. So if you've been listening and thinking, I'm ready, I want to transform, I want to live fully, I just don't know how, this is your sign. This is your queer comeback. Welcome to Queer-Quest Pro, a revolutionary 12-month journey of queer healing, growth, and transformation in every area of your life. From your mental and emotional health to your spiritual connection, purpose, finances, identity, relationships. This is your full circle evolution. We guide you month by month through the queer wellness wheel of life with workshops, live coaching, quests, rituals, and a global community of queer souls rising together. It's the place for woke queer humans who are ready to rise unapologetically. Because healing is hard, but healing in community, that's sacred. And baby, you deserve sacred. Are you ready to live a life that actually feels like yours? Click the link in the show notes to join us now. Doors are open. We're waiting for you inside. This is your comeback. Don't miss it.